Ajahn Sucitto said, we've just chosen some common things that come up in terms of practice, particularly when we're starting to settle into a time together. So you'll get, things start to shift, but these are often the things we're confronted with in the beginning. So we'll just throw questions and responses back and forth a bit. So the first thing we thought to attend to was this question of, how do I deal with bodily pain? Yeah. So some people have a little bit of it, some of us have a lot of it, and in my experience, it's a case of really coming into the quality of sati sampajanya, kind of real clear comprehension. There's no one answer, is there? We were saying we could do a whole retreat on it. It's a case of really opening the mind, opening the awareness to really receive what's here and see what medicine is needed. There are times when it's conducive just to be with that experience, to come, but to even do that, we have to come out of the tendency to energetically tighten around pain. So how do we actually be here with what is happening? And I don't know about you, but I can find if my mind goes, then the mind tightens, the body tightens, and what might have been actually just a passing sensation starts to get energized. So a lot of it, to me, is about relaxing in the body, relaxing in the mind. So, some of us have bodies, it's not like the pain is going to go away, but the response to that can become really so different that the pain is experienced very differently. Yeah, I don't know about you, but certainly by this age, bones are going their own way, things are going their own way. And then what am I doing with that in terms of my own heart? So here we are sitting, there is painful sensation, and there can just be that presence with it. Dukkhandriya, the faculty for painful physical sensation. Yeah? It's part of embodied experience. Yeah? It's nothing going wrong. So there can be that kind of softening and acceptance. Here it is. Now what is needed? If we're thinking in terms of love, what would love do? And there are times when we just stay still, stay present, and start to work energetically, relaxing. There are times when it's suitable to change posture out of compassion. Yeah, what it's like to be in this sensitive embodied form. So in my experience, we'll talk more about this in the retreat, the breath is medicine. So to use breath to keep the energetic flow happening. Pain usually really amplifies when we concentrate or focus attention in a certain place. So the breath helps us get a flow happening. It's a bit like breathing through something, letting energy flow through this energy of love, of life, of vitality. So we're letting that flow, massage, in a way make the space, make the body experience, make the heart experience large enough. Yeah. And so to feel that tendency to tighten, resist, not want, and relaxing that. Here it is. The next moment may be different, but in this moment, this is what is happening, what is needed. Yeah. So, that sense of breath as medicine and a kind of spaciousness with life. And then there's looking after the body, isn't there? Working, there's sitting on the cushion, there's things that support the body's flexibility, the body's well-being, enough sleep, right food, exercises, so that we're actually living in a really holistic way. We're not doing crazy things, sitting down and expecting the body to be blissful. And I'm like you, if I do a lot of heavy work outside, I sit down, the body's just painful. You know, this is a consequence of, and then to use the breath to rebalance, to re-energize, to actually allow things to come out of contraction. So that's just opening comments, yeah. How do we actually bring love, awareness, tenderness into this experience? You know, and I know from some of you actually have really painful physical form. So it's not that we can necessarily change that, but we can certainly change our response to that. So it feels radically different. And we have compassion here, and it teaches us to have compassion for all beings, yeah, in sensitive forms. You know. So we use it to make the heart grow great. Yeah, Ajahn, how do you work with a painful body?
Pretty much I agree with what you're saying, Willa. Well, that's really lovely to hear. Lovely to hear. And, you know, I don't really have the kind of pains that a lot of people have. So you know, I really hear some dreadful things people experiencing. It's so, you know, it's easy for me to say, but I mean, there's different kinds of pain, aren't there? There's just the physical sensation pain, which is, you know, you've got physical damage, and then you've got the energetic pain where things are just twisted up, compression, just body feels really uncomfortable. And then, of course, the sickness, when you feel disease, sickness, so everything is just. I know exactly. I mean, really, it's how do you use pain as a teacher to, you know, to work on, as you said, to work on the relationship, the mind's relationship. You know, it's going to conquer things and make things right and change things, and it can't stand it. And it causes the mind has to just start to surrender, not in a kind of defeated way, but like just open from its contracted state. I mean, I'll just echo everything you said. The only thing I might add to it is sometimes it's good if you've got a local pain, you know, like you've got a pain in your leg, to just widen your awareness to include your whole body. Then you can sense, oh yeah, there's only that painful, but it's only like 10%. So it just gives a little bit of a, you can step back into something that's not pushing you against the wall. You know, you've got somewhere where you get a little bit of comfort, where you can actually, you know, okay, that's there, and I'm not completely in it. You know, because when you're in it, it gets really difficult. So you've got somewhere like, okay, my leg's on fire, but my ears are pretty good. You know, my back, particularly the back, if you've got it, that can give you some support. Working with the energies, how the mind kind of seizes and gets seized, and just softening energies so you can begin to open and expand. I once told someone to welcome their pain. Fortunately, it didn't hit me. I don't mean you like it. It means you just, instead of doing that, you kind of as best you can. And sometimes it's good to have that bigger space behind, you know, stepping back to a bigger body to give you that place where you could possibly give the mind a break so as it can rest up. And then visualizing pain sometimes helps, because when you just feel it on the tactile, you get almost an instinctive, body just instinctively responds. But if you sort of visualize what does it look like, in a way you transfer the pain to a visual image, you've got some chance where it's not quite so intense. You know, and you sort of get the mind to describe how big the area is and what does it look like. And that just again changes, just gives a little bit support in changing the relationship to the pain. And when it's things like just physical, like sickness, we just physically, then, you know, you really got to just start practicing metta. Metta, and realize somebody in the world is probably is experiencing this or even worse. karuna, big field. And don't get your intention trying to cure anything. Just get your intention to just open and be loving, as you said. So that's kind of what I would echo what you say, and maybe just a couple of footnotes on that.
And maybe even just to pick up a little on that, Bhante, that, I was talking to someone who's going to have a baby soon, and the new research says that actually our body is, pain is one sensation, but the wiring is such that stroking actually blocks out pain. Yeah. Then you're just with the stroking. So, my sense of breath is of stroking, so that to realize that actually we can shift radically with what's actually happening, in our awareness, can't we? So that sense, like you're saying, focusing somewhere else or coming into a different rhythm with it. So stroking awareness through something.
Yeah, moving through it. Because as the energy locks up, that's when you're in problems. As the energy locks, when your mind locks, then you get into this, gripped state where the pain just pushes you against the wall. But if you can keep your energy loosely fluid, that again tends to counteract the grip of pain, the gripping effect. So you've got to look at pain as both, the dukkha vedana, but also the psychological feeling of being seized, and also the energetic grip of it, where it just captures your attention. So if you can loosen that up, then you've begun to undercut some of the aspects of pain. Pain has got all kinds of different features to it, other than just the disagreeable sensation. There's all kinds of other stuff involved with it. And that's kind of what it teaches you, because, some of the psychological bleating or fighting has to go. Then your energies have to loosen up around it. And then it can make you very sweet, very sweet and loving, because every creature's experiencing this. And so grateful perhaps when it's stopped, when you're not in pain. Just Shall we go
so
to
what,
the next one?
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you do when your mind's obsessively thinking? Yeah.
Oh, who asked that one? Well, excessively thinking. I mean, yeah, it's a range of things. My sense is you've got to take the mind to a place where it pauses, either by linking it to the out breath. So you kind of, if you like, you jam the thinking by dropping the out breath into it. And the out breath has got that sort of deflation, easing up, that tends to, obsessive thinking tends to escalate energy. So that, or walking up and down, so you've got something physical that stands in the way. But it's quite often the case the obsessive thinking will just override that. So sometimes you have to directly counter think, or ask, for example, asking questions, who's thinking? What's the thinking feel like? So where you kind of enter a dialogue with a thinking mind. If you're entering a dialogue with the thinking mind, you're dividing the energy of the thinking mind into two. The obsessive thinking is going one way, and then you've got a questioning saying, and how is that? And how is that? And what does that feel like? And how's it? And where does that go? So you're kind of using one set of thoughts to catch the other set of thoughts, rather like a horse running out, and you run after it and jump on the back of the thing. So it's like one set of thoughts sits on top of the other sets of thoughts. And the obsessive thought is the wild horse, and then your other thought jumps on top of it and says, "Oh, how are you doing? Having a nice obsession, are you? Very good. And how is that today? And what's it feel like?" So you start to kind of talk to it, whereby it can no longer quite get so headstrong and involved with itself. Some of it sometimes it's just really funny, because some of it is just stuff you've heard so many times, and it's almost like this old thing again. Or the how dare they, you go to the emotions, how they're indignant, anything kind of comical, or you get these terribly poignant thoughts where you're really frightened. So it depends what the thought is doing. But so you would question it sometimes compassionately, like, how does it feel, that thought? Don't try to stop it, but just how does it feel? What's the one word that would sum up the emotion that thought is running on? Is it just desperation? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it anger? Is it excitement? Is it just escapism? Like just me think about any old thing. And then how's that feel in the heart? How's it feel in the heart? Don't stop it, but what's the current it's riding on? Get it into your heart. And then how does that heart feel in your body? Agitated, stirring. Could you get your body to kind of wrap around it and listen to it compassionately, listening with your body? So obviously this isn't arms and legs, it's the felt body, this kind of holding it, breathing into it like you're holding a baby with your felt body, holding it, just breathing into it. And anything more? Anything more you'd like to say? So don't, if you say shut up, it doesn't like it. You say anything more? Anything more? Come on, speak up. And eventually it kind of sometimes it just needs to be listened to with that kind of grandmother heart. That's kind of my suggestion. Have you of those? Do you know anything about that?
A little bit. So, like you, my sense is, in a way, how I might phrase it, is almost to come under the thoughts and to feel the energetic of them. And some of us have favourite hindrances. So, if you're the kind of worry mind, kind of, is everything all right kind of mind, does this need doing kind of mind, it brings a kind of restlessness and a lot of thinking. So for me, sometimes I just go, oh, there's worry happening. And it can be just trivial little things, but it's a kind of a habitual response that needs allaying and soothing and meeting. So coming under the thoughts as you're describing, Bhante, is really helpful for me. Sometimes it's a bit like the system's too frayed, too fragmented or worn. So actually it needs some kind of nourishment. So recollecting, if you find recollecting the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha gladdening, or teachers, or anything that brings a sense of well-being and joy and starts to feed the sense of okayness and presence, really helps. So mudita is really helpful for that, really recognizing goodness, your own goodness practice, the field we're in, I find really starts to calm the mind and establish it in the greater presence. So once again, it's an inquiry, isn't it? Is this coming from frayedness, tiredness, in effect, sense that there's not enough capacity even to establish mindfulness, so something needs feeding, or is it that something else is going on?
Yeah, what is he trying to do? What's he trying to do? Having a bit of sympathy, trying to meet the emotional current in an appropriate way.
And it's a painful state, isn't it? You know? So it's again, even just to feel how painful it is to have the mind agitated can shift everything. Oh, this poor being with this agitated mind. Many of you will have read the nuns' verses, in different forms. And there are some really lovely teachings from some of the bhikkhuni who said, not for a moment did I have any peace of mind. But clearly they kept establishing mindfulness with that. And at some point the mind released. So it doesn't have to be an obstacle if we keep present to it. We just have different kind of karma with our minds, don't we? Yeah, so to look after the heart and mind in that. Yeah.
People can't concentrate. How? Mind just can't concentrate, doesn't stay still for a moment.
Okay. So we're kind of a bit in the same territory, aren't we? Often if it can't concentrate, I don't even like the word myself, but it won't collect, it won't stay present with the focus of the meditation. First, it's to recognize that, isn't it? Because sometimes we're not even really present to the fact that the mind's just scattering all over the place, that mindfulness hasn't been established clearly. And then what are we trying to do? Because my experience, of talking to people, of myself, is we can have such a narrow sense of concentration. And I have an image for that, as some of you know. Like if we're concentrating and it's kind of a narrow thing like that, it falls over really easily. Yeah, so it's a very tight, focused in a very sharp way on a very small point. We can get sometimes really strong concentration, but it's very brittle. And, in a way, what we're trying to cultivate is an awareness that has this deep receptivity, so that it may not feel as sharp initially, but it's a lot more stable. Yeah. So I would just check, in a way, what we're trying to, our sense of what we're trying to do. If we're trying to narrow down tight into a point and lose everything, shut everything out, quieten everything down, then we can do it through willpower, but it's not really sustainable in the long term, and it doesn't really fruit. So I can't concentrate, maybe to focus in a slightly different way. In a way, we're trying to come out of fragmentation, aren't we? Into kind of embodied presence. And often it's more about opening than concentrating or tightening. And then how do we keep the mind so that it can actually stay present with the experience of body, present with the experience of breath? And one of the keys to that is really attuning to what is beautiful, the beautiful breath, the relief of just being here, sitting in this simplicity, bringing perceptions that actually feed and allay, so that we can actually fully come here. And it is in this very broad, very present way. What is here? What needs attending to? And then if we come and we allow ourselves to be fully in this experience of body, experience of this moment, then certain things start to become more present within our awareness. Breath starts to arise, naturally. So I just, in a way, if I get the sense I can't concentrate, I just check what the agenda had been and whether it actually had enough spaciousness in it, enough receptivity in it. There's a lot we could say on that, but maybe that's a start. So Bhante, what do you do with your wayward mind?
Wayward mind?
When it won't settle anywhere.
Yes. Well, it's not too much of a problem, but I don't really, as I think yourself, I'm very cautious about the word concentration because of what that means, or what that tends to mean. And there's a sense of settledness and stability, which is not about a narrow focus. It's about inner gravity that begins to arise. And basically, when one looks at when the Buddha used the word samadhi, so what's the precursor for that? The mind is happy. What's the precursor for the mental happiness? The body is relaxed. Why is the body relaxed? Because we experience freedom from blame, freedom from remorse, freedom from guilt. We have good friends. So you can always sort of go back to stop thinking about concentrating. If it isn't there, it isn't there. It's not right. It doesn't something you do. It's something that happens. Yeah. So we've got to go back to I'm keeping precepts. I don't hurt people. There's honesty there for me. How does honesty feel? How does truthfulness feel? How does self-respect feel? How does generosity feel? Yeah, that's good. What does gratitude feel like? Yeah, it's good. Okay, take those in. Satisfied. Our body begins to settle. Mind feels happy. So it's often we've got to step back from this holy grail of concentration. Like that's what it's not, meditation is not, that's not the big deal of meditation. That's what kind of happens. But even looking at the jhanas, even first jhanas, no mention of concentration. A sense of disengagement from distressing experiences, just step back from them, focus on experiences that gladden the heart, think through it, think it, bring it to mind. Remember, one has good friends. If you've got one good friend, or if you remember the goodness, let your heart dwell in that until you get that heartful lingering, and drinking it and breathing it in. So as you've so often commented, breathing is not purely an air thing. It's sending the vitality, picking up a fruitful heart tone and extending that vitality, in that breathy kind of way, in that tidal, flowing, vital way. So the body feels settled and soothed right through, then the mind doesn't want to go anywhere else. It's happy, it sits there. So there's often this value of recollection, of deliberately drawing back to good friends, morality, freedom from guilt, freedom from remorse. Now, of course, we can think about things we do feel remorse for, but think about things you don't feel remorse for. Dwell upon the lovely and the good, and that's punya, that's merit, and there's a value to that. It shouldn't just be taken lightly. Mind is happy, body settles, then you're in your felt body, and your felt body can act as the basis for the citta to recognize it, and you can be at home here. Sit down. You don't have to make an effort. You don't have to struggle. You don't have to concentrate. Just sit here, and eventually, rather like taming a wild deer, if you keep holding the food out, citta will gather in, sit down. That's my sense of it. It's a graduated process. It's not something you forced to. You shouldn't force it. If you're doing that, you're going the wrong way. It's recollecting and gathering up the good.
Yeah. Yes, as you say, Bhante, to really see it as a process, of really getting the conditions that support the mind to actually, mind body to come out of that fragmentation. As you were talking, I was also thinking of that framework, the Indriya, and that the first thing that is needed is the establishment of conviction or faith, the sense that it's worth actually doing the practice. It's possible. It's possible for this, this process to actually fruit, so that we come into the sense of connection with the triple gem. So once again, it's not some narrow focus, but it's actually opening into a bigger field of practice.
Bigger field. Yeah. Okay, shall we move on?
Yeah, so here's the one. My mind goes dull and I keep falling asleep.
Yeah. Sounds like me. Well, I suppose there's the obvious stuff, isn't there? But it's often that miserable negative feeling one has towards it, or just the collapse into it. You just kind of can't be bothered, or fighting against it. And there's a difference. You don't want to go into collapsing into it, but also just fighting against it isn't appropriate, because you haven't got it's just not the right way to do it. And so by and large, my strategy is to use the body, really, to hold the body up and to draw the body up in line with the breathing. Open the eyes and feel when your energy is low. You can often feel the skin feels like kind of wet rags tightening around your head. So you contemplate the physical feeling of it. Keep your eyes open. Let your breathing descend, because often the breathing gets kind of dull, and you find when you're dull, your head goes over, so your chest cavity gets smaller, so your breathing gets limper and less juicy. So you want to, try to keep your chest open so you can get the vitalizing effect of the breathing as a factor. Standing is good. Keeping the eyes open, wide open, and contemplating. Sometimes energy is not there. It's just, to me, I don't think, I think there's just the fact that energy itself is just a factor, like, that you only got so much of. You can't have more than you got. Sometimes you just run out of juice. And what are you going to do about that? Is it possible to meditate or to be aware of low juice without trying to make it high juice? And that's also, sometimes it's not going to get any stronger, but you can just find a place where you can, not cave in, not get frantic and agitated, and just rest in it. So those are kind of things, but by and large, I would say most people are experiencing this, that often their bodies are going soft and saggy. So some open-eyed attention to bodily posture is going to be, I think, a pretty crucial feature to get some leverage on how that captures everything. You can get the mind active, like recitation, reciting a mantra. You can move your mind around your body, like you often. So I might put my fingertips together, because fingertips they're quite sensitive. So just instead of tightening, just using this, focusing on the sensitivity of the fingertips, you can sleep and just keep focusing on that. So your mind has got something to anchor on as it changes gear, how to operate with a low energy. So you get energy's low, but you're still awake with it, because you've got something that's easy to sense. It's the sensations in your fingertips, and staying with that, breathing. And so energy goes down, but the mind doesn't go negative or stupid. The mind is okay. Let's work with this. This is a natural experience. And maybe we trough, we go into a trough and you just hang in there in the trough. And surprisingly, I might hang in that trough for a good half an hour or so and just working with it. And then, oh, it's starting to lift. Whew, starting to lift. If I fight with it, it doesn't work. I can hang in with it. The energy, as the mind adjusts its energy, the energy starts to come up a little bit. And that's really nice to sense how the energy will take care of itself. How about yourself?
Well, yes. And just thinking too that here we are, for most people in the world, they're chronically tired, yeah?
Yeah.
The experiences have been really stretched in all kinds of different ways, so that when we sit down, it can be that just the whole system is tired. So at a start of a retreat, it can be one of the big problems. All of a sudden we stop and then come into how actually exhausted the whole system is. So that needs respecting. And the Buddha would say, if it's really deep physical tiredness, then one of the recipes is sleep. Yeah. But that there are things to do before that, as you're saying, to actually learn what that low energy is like, and to be able to stay present with it. So there's when the energy is low because the physical energy has been really used and expended, and then there's the kind of dullness that comes from kind of resistance to being present. So if I become dull and I know this physical body is rested enough, then my inquiry will be, what is it I don't want to be present with? So it may be some physical pain, it may be just some energetic imbalance, something that's happening, that's kind of bubbling in the chitta. So coming into inquiry, that kind of inquiry, I find can really suddenly sharpen and brighten the mind. So seeing it as something that needs a bit of energy coming into it to really understand it, to understand what's going on. So I find it can come from different sources. Sometimes it's a bit like the Buddha described it being sat on by an elephant or stepped on by an elephant. Yeah, and so it's a kind of energetic pressing down. And that's often if the system's just too worn out. Other times it's that sense of how was it described? A bowl, a turbid bowl, a bowl full of kind of dark stuff in a dark cupboard. Yeah, and to me that needs inquiry. In a way, when the mind's lost the ability to really know what's going on, then to start to awaken that again. So once again, it takes a sense of really trying to feel into what's really going on, and then to use whatever medicine is needed for that. So yeah, it's certainly unpleasant.
It certainly is.
So standing up, these simple things can really help, because standing so helps the energy body come out of crinkles and wrinkles and smooth out, which may be really helpful. So, yeah. Yes, as you're saying, Bhante, to stay present and to come out of kind of aversion.
Yeah, and also it's important to, I realize, clearly one does, people do get exhausted in their lifestyles, but I know in monasteries, people are not exhausted, they're just nodding off.
That's right.
With a sense there's longing for calm, to want to be calm, want to get away from things. It's like a certain instinctive reflex, like a certain escapism. I don't think it's psychological. It's just you don't want to go in a nice, calm, soft place. And you see people doing this year in, year out, and not really taking it seriously. That this is calm. It's not a big deal, you know. It's only supposed to be a part of a remedy, you know, and actually using investigation, inquiry is crucial. You know?
Yeah.
You get stuck in these habits whereby that's what you do when you meditate is bye-bye time.
Yeah, that's right. Rather than waking up time.
Yeah, waking up time, like open your eyes, you know, see that's difficult. But people want something wants to just, you know, so it becomes a habit. So to kind of emphasize the sense of not physical pushing, but mental acuity. Like, okay, what's happening in your hands? What's happening in your feet? What's happening in your chest? What's happening in your chest? Get the mind to move around a bit, you know, rather than always seek to concentrate and calm down.
Yeah, there can be an addiction, as you're pointing to just kind of getting everything calm. You know, you make me think of that thing from Ajahn Chah, you know, even chickens can sit. So it is about bringing inquiry, isn't it?
Yeah, energizing the mind. So what about when energies are going weird? I've got a question here, weird energies running all my body. I've got this funny, strange spasms and sort of energies rushing up and funny feelings. And what's that all about?
So there's many things one could say about that, but once again, you know, there can be different reasons for these things, yeah? When we're cultivating and the mind really opens and comes out of fragmentation, all kinds of rebalancings can happen, yeah? So you can get energies that are kind of weird, but are actually just things finding their right place, yeah? So sometimes they're part of something, the whole system coming into balance. And we stay really spacious with that, yeah? I don't know about you, but sometimes when I sit, I feel after a while, you know, even the bones start straightening themselves out, you know, as the energy of the breath comes through them. So some weird things are actually just part of a rebalancing. Yeah? And then there are the kind of weird things that are coming from either, you know, too much tightening often, where there's not been enough spaciousness, enough flow. Yeah. So if things get, you know, so that they feel like they're weird from a tight place, then they need that sense of using breath, the energy of breath, to really calm, settle, and once again, bring things out of restriction into flow. So one of my things, you know, is that sense of, well, we don't panic, yeah? This mind and body are marvelous things and all kinds of things are possible. But we need to, once again, discern, is this something that's actually conducive, bringing deeper well-being, part of something clearing and coming into balance? Or is it about actually a wrong relationship to body and experience that's actually bringing tightening and an intensification, you know, and a kind of imbalancing? Yeah. So that would be my first thing of going, what's happening here? Is there enough breath, spaciousness, friendliness here? And then weird things happen, we relax, yeah. And often they just pass through, they're just doing their thing if we don't tighten around them. How about you, Ajahn? What do you do with the weird energies that can happen?
Yeah, I don't have too much of a problem with it personally, but because I do quite a bit of spinal stuff, and I think there's a the energy system of the body, basically the true axis is the spinal axis. I don't mean the physicality of the spine, but there's an energy channel. So I feel, so if I'm aware of that and extend over the entire region of that spinal channel, then the awareness, when awareness connects to energy, it amplifies it. You don't have to do anything. When awareness touches energy and stays with it, the energy is amplified. That's just seemingly out of the chemistry. So if one gets too interested in the weird stuff, you amplify it. If you struggle with it, you amplify it. If you wonder what it's about, you're still giving it energy. Yeah. If you get frightened of it, you give it energy. If you try and control it, you give it energy. So you want to, my sense is you want to go back to the spinal channel and extend it, because it's actually like an energy channel rather than a physical one, from the, ideally, you probably feel it somewhere in your body and go down through the base of the body. And if you can, go down to your feet, do standing, because standing is a great balancer, because you're connecting right to the earth, and you've got that spinal axis is very long then, and then you're connecting to that, and you get the vertical axis. So you establish that, and then perhaps you begin to recognize, oh yeah, it's a bit stuck here in the chest. Oh, that's where it's stuck. So just being aware of what's underneath and what's above and around that, with an opening, so that perhaps energy which has been stuck can return to the spinal axis, because that's the mother of them all. And then, then it may begin to move up. You might find a bit of a jump or a release or something like that. And in emotion, because sometimes these energies get trapped through emotional shock or obstructions. So it might be an energetic release. So there's the vertical and then the lateral. The vertical is the most important, I think. And then if that also, you can do the lateral across the chest and across the hips, so you feel you're not energetically compressed. There's an expansion. So those act like a kind of frame, in which you establish that frame, and then bring your awareness on that. Your energy will tend eventually to conform to that frame. Just by holding that frame in awareness, your energy will tend to lengthen. So instead of being bunched up and jangly, it begins to smooth and lengthen and also widen. Instead of being kind of over to the left or over to the right or sinking down. And this is a great place, a great way to heal certain blockages. You might think you've got some strange, funny block in your hip, which isn't associated with a muscle. It just feels tight there and stressed and holding. And you don't know why it's holding. You don't have to know why. But if you hold, my sense is that frame and breathing onto that, through that frame, letting your breath cover that frame, your awareness cover that frame, energies will tend by themselves. They know what to do. They come out of the lock and go home to the proper state. That's my sense of it. Energy is very fascinating, and I think that's one of the main things, is not to get too fascinated, involved, worried. Oh, this is a Kundalini breakthrough. No, it's not a Kundalini breakthrough. Or if it is, so what? Don't get interested in it. Just find the cool, steady place of the open body, and that will tend to draw energies in line with it. And if that doesn't work for you, then leave it. Don't linger in it. Just start moving around. If you're finding it's getting too much, too intense, just widen your frame of reference. Do some walking, meditation. take a bath or something, take a shower. Don't get intense around it.
Yeah. Yeah. Intensification doesn't help, does it? So,
No.
yeah.
I think we have time perhaps just for, well, we've got time for one more. What would you like to tackle? There's
Well,
either anything or leave it there.
why don't I, if we tackle, about breath, since we're, in a way, we're in the realm of this, aren't we? So I can't do breath meditation. Everything tightens when I concentrate on it. Other times I just lose it.
Yeah, well, as I said, breath meditation, you don't want to go to it too early. It's always there. And my sense is this idea of concentrating on the breath is the wrong idea. The Buddha never taught us to do that. And it's like if you're settling your body and your whole body, you get into the felt body and you're settling that, your breath tide is going to, your breathing tide is going to begin to manifest. You'll begin to sense it with no pressure, and you open and receive it. So you don't try to concentrate on it. If it's not there, it's not ready yet. You have to get the body settled and the mind in the right state. We're not hunting, we're not chasing, we're not goal oriented. We're not trying to make an experience happen. Very common in meditation is to try to make things happen, trying to get to that thing you read in the book. It's very common. And so just ground in the body, wait and linger and steady. And if the heart is contented, then the breathing will manifest in some way or another. This is a gentle tide of swelling, and just receive it. Don't concentrate on it, because the idea is you're mindful of it, which means you, in that frame of reference, you can notice there is this experience, and it will let it however it manifests.
Yes, that sense. Hunting, then things start running. Yeah. So that sense of here we are, and breath is energy, it's life. It actually brings us into relationship with everything. So I think we have to be really respectful of it. We're not trying to do something with it, get it, have it. So to come into right relationship with breath, with everything. And one thing I find really helpful is, say that's the body energetic, and just to let the breath come and touch. So mind is not moving, the body is not moving, just receiving something that's actually been given, but bestowed, it's happening by itself, and letting that do its thing. Because there can be whole senses of trying to get some kind of experience, but actually what the work is to set skillful conditions to let things arise naturally. And as you'll all be familiar, if you set things up with the proper conditions, then things flower from there. And if what you're experiencing is when you concentrate on the breath, everything tightens, that's a real sign that the relationship isn't right yet, that there needs it to be more just coming into the body, more relaxation, more allowing, kind of broadening, just coming into presence, just being here, is what I would say. So it's a helpful piece of information if you find it's this tightening happening, to go, how am I actually relating to this gift, really, the gift of breath, the gift of life.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, we can't treat depth experiences like surface experiences. You
Yeah.
can grab hold of a banana, but you can't grab hold of breathing.
And even bananas can be slippery. So, yeah.
Slippery, yeah. So you use a different protocol for depth experiences. It's much more respectful.
Mm,
Much more respectful. No
yeah,
bullying, no grabbing allowed.
that's right. And respectful because breath actually links and relates to all kinds of things. So breath, the chitta, they're all, coming in the same kind of substance in a way. So it's to be respectful of your own heart as well, our own hearts, that we're not trying to do some trip on it. Yeah, we're coming into something really quite profound. We're coming into relationship with existence. So yeah, to soften around that. I'm just aware of the time.
I think we've used people's hour.
Yes,
This thing's been used for an hour. I hope it's been of some use, benefit. Perhaps some old refrains that you probably heard before. It's good to refresh again. And it's nice to be in dialogue with Willa. We enjoyed that.
yeah.
Listening to what we're saying, slightly different voices, but seems that I hope some things are settling for you in there. And I'm going to take my leave now and see you or hear you or be present with you in a few hours' time. But I think the next session, Willa's going to lead that one. So all my best wishes and leave you in very safe hands for now.
Thank you, Bhante. So we'll take a break so that you've got time to do what you need to do. But the sense is to actually stay with the process we're actually coming into, to stay present with your own embodied experience. So wherever you can, just to simplify, so we have a real chance to let this process gather momentum together. Some of you will be coming in, slightly different times. So I would suggest we all keep a sense, some folk are off to sleep, other folk are waking up, that we keep a sense of all of us in a field of practice. It's a bit like when I kind of relay with the light passing between us at each time. So all through the day, all through the night, there are people part of this retreat, awake, sitting, recollecting. Yeah. So just stay attuned with the energy that we're gathering together. And I'll see you, shortly. Yeah.
Couple of hours, I think. Yeah.
Couple of hours. Okay.
Yep.